Hey, come through, just you or your crew. I just want to tell you about some news you could use with the All Black Matters podcast. Hey.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of the All Black Matters podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning into another episode. This is your girl, Rifka. If you don't know, now you know. I don't know what that was. This week's episode, I wanted to kind of speak about something that I feel like we're all thinking about in a time like this. And that thing is, drumroll please, vision and purpose. I think right now, where the state of the world is, just in general, and just, I think personally, for a lot of people dealing with the pandemic, dealing with COVID, dealing with, jobs, changing and employment, lack of employment, whether or not you are employed and you just have a different, I guess, vision, or like just, you're seeing yourself in a different place than what you did before. We're all kind of going through, I feel like a lot of us anyway, are going through a metamorphosis of sorts. And I just think it's really interesting. And I want to talk about that today. So if you are interested, stay tuned. So vision and purpose, it's just, I feel like these are terms that we use so lightly, so often, that we talk about, our visions for the next year, or, when it's time to make, end of the year resolutions or something, we talk about where we see ourselves or our purpose in life. And I feel like there's just terms that we kind of vaguely think about, a lot of us, and we're kind of almost using them as I guess like colloquial terms, you know what I mean? You just be like, hey, what's up? Oh, what's your vision? Or, you know what I'm saying? It just becomes so casual that sometimes we're not really taking the time out to really think about what they mean and how they impact our lives, unless it's the end of the year, or someone asks you at a dinner party, which probably don't happen to a lot of us, child, but in settings where it's super formal, you know what I mean? And I think that we just you get used to just saying what you're supposed to, quote unquote, say in those environments, rather than really, really making this an applicable part of your life, every single day, I thought about this today. I'm someone who, if you guys can't tell from the pod, child, I'm always thinking about something. I'm always doing some type of introspection. I'm always thinking about, just kind of evaluating where I am in life, where I've been, how I've gotten to the point that I am now, what things I could have done better, what things that weren't my fault, things that I could not have changed, and how that will influence me going forward. That's probably the psych major in me, child, always love psychology. But yeah, it was just really interesting to me today, especially because I'm not going to lie, y'all, I've been having a bit of a rough week. I have been having a bit of a rough week. I know it's only Wednesday. Yes, it is Wednesday when I'm recording. And I've just been having for the past couple weeks, I would say I've been having a bit of a tumultuous time, not even so much about circumstances, but more so just inwardly trying to figure out what my next steps are, going back to relating to vision and purpose. And that's what I've been kind of on. So I figured why not talk about this? Because every time I speak to a friend or a family member or someone else, they're going through the same thing. So it's I'm not alone in this, and maybe what I have to say could help someone else, or, we could just bounce ideas off each other, child. So yeah, that's kind of how I came about, wanting to talk about this topic today. I feel like the way that I kind of want to do this is breaking it down. I wrote a little bit of notes, child. And the first thing I thought about when I'm thinking about this topic was what my passions are, right? Because it's how do you even get to a place where you're thinking about what your purpose is? How does that become a real, I guess, actionable item, you know what I mean, for you, rather than just having a passive thought about it, or someone asking you one day and you kind of you think about it for a little while, and then you kind of continue to do whatever your job is, or continue to I guess run on the same treadmill or cycle, however you want to whatever analogy you want to use. How do you get out of that status of being, I guess, in the backseat of your own car to now driving it, And I know a lot of people have trouble with that. And so the first thing I think about when I think about, the idea of having visions and passion, and purpose, is like what my passions are. I think for me, before I guess actionably thought about what I wanted to do with my life, I was just kind of like thinking about what I was good at or what I saw external validation would give, like the things that would give me external validation. So for instance, I'm really good at Excel, for like, as an example, okay, I can make a job out of that. Or, people say I'm good at this, so let me kind of do that, as opposed to seeing like what I was passionate about and letting that be an actionable item for myself, And I think that once I started doing that, it changed my life. So I just want to share that with you guys, that like, that's something that was like a huge factor. And of course, I am not somebody that's like there where I need to be yet, but I'm definitely on my way. And I feel like something that helps me every day to kind of like have a clear vision or like create a vision is just kind of thinking about what my passions truly are, as opposed to the things that people say I'm good at. So that's the first thing. Then the next thing I think about, like with that, and I guess I could give you guys a little bit about my passions, things that I'm actually interested in, is like, I'm a creative, right? And one of the things that helped me to kind of break out of the ideas of what I should be versus what I wanted to be was that, right? Like just thinking about when I'm at work or when I was in school, the things that I gravitated to more, the things that made me excited, like, that I would think about, the things that I would do, quote unquote, homework for without even being asked. Like, those are the things that like you're passionate about. Like, you know what I mean? Whether that be dance, whether that be maybe psychology, maybe it's mathematics, maybe it's art, maybe it's, I don't know, like soccer, like whatever those things are that you want to do when nobody's watching, when you want to do those things, even if you never got paid for it, like you're just like, I love this, And yeah, like that's one of the things that I feel like also gives you fuel, and especially at a time like this, because again, like I started off by saying that like I was kind of having like a little bit of a slump, I'm not really saying that I was mad or sad or anything, but it's one of those feelings, when you get in those feelings where it's like, what's next, and like, how am I supposed to go from here, And one thing that helps me or gets me excited about that is just thinking about what I'm passionate about and what I love to do and how fulfilled I feel when I do those things, and really, really like taking your time to make a list, And let me just continue because I know I'm rambling, child, but I'm really, really like, this really kind of changed my life. And once I started doing this, it really helped me. So going back to what I was saying. So there's what you're passionate about, why you're passionate about it, and how you can accomplish those things. So just making that like as a starting point, even if you don't know what the hell you're going to do with your life, even if you don't know how you're going to get there, even if you don't really understand the steps to making that happen, just having the framework of understanding like, hey, like this is something I love to do. Write it down, like, or maybe draw it, or however it speaks to you. Just make sure that's known and that's plain and that's something that you can see. I know I have a friend that creates vision boards and mood boards, and like that's another way you can do it. Maybe lists are your thing, do it that way. But like just making it really plain that like this is what I care about, and why I care about it. Why is it something that makes me want to do it? Like, what about this thing drives me? What about this thing influences me? Like why do I care about this? You know what I mean? Like that's something that I found to be super, super helpful. And the next step, I guess, would be the next stage of this would be like, how can I accomplish that? Like, what things can I use around me? What resources do I already have in my tool belt? Or what can I externally gain to help me to get to do this passionate thing that I love to do? Those are like the foundational things that I feel like I think about when I think about vision and purpose, and like how I can actionably do those things. And coming from having ideas and thoughts and visions and things that you want to do, to actually making those things a reality. And it's so interesting because for myself, like being on this journey, as as long as I have, I feel like I've been on this journey for, I would say, like a year and a half now. And for me, it's been really interesting to see that like a lot of the people that I look up to and kind of like, I don't have idols, I can't lie, but like people that I admire, people that I aspire to be like, people that I like I look up to. I don't call them idols because I feel like, it's just a very strong term that I don't like to use for anyone. But yeah, like people that I aspire to be like, I find that a lot of them started in similar places that as I did. A lot of times you guys will hear me shout out podcasts or, just certain different people that, Black people are doing amazing things. And the reason why some of those people stand out to me is because they come from humble beginnings. They struggled and they created a name for themselves. And now they're notable people that we know, everyone knows about, or everyone respects to some degree or another, especially if you're interested in things like media or arts or creative, the creative fields. So I just find it to be so interesting that when you really like start to evaluate the things that you love to do, the things that you care about, the things that are unique to you, but also, are things that, you find to be super interesting. You'll find other people, the more research you do, that are like that, who have maybe started where you have, who have maybe had less than you have, maybe had more than you have, maybe, can influence you in certain kinds of ways, or maybe offer resources for you. And I think that in a time like this, that just that notion, the idea of that has helped me so much in my journey, and in moments where I just feel so overwhelmed, child, like, feel so much like I don't have a grip on any damn thing, child. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm coming, if I'm going. I don't know how I'm surviving by the grace of God. Like, I think just realizing that other people have been here as well, that I look up to, helps me to stay grounded, helps me to remember that it is a process. Another thing I think is important to note is that in the process of trying to like achieve your dreams, your vision, your purpose, your ambitions, your goals, we make lists, we, have mood boards, we set our intentions, we have affirmations, we do all of these beautiful things, which, by the way, if you don't know about them, you should be setting affirmations every single day if you can, for how your day is going to go. Even if it's not necessarily like your 10-year plan or whatever it might be, just having goals and having affirmations and setting intentions towards those things, whether it just be like, I'm gonna get out the bed today, or I'm gonna, like, let's say you're going through a lot and you haven't been out the bed, you haven't brushed your teeth, things like that. Or maybe it's bigger things like, I'm gonna start this business, whatever it might be, the things that you hear me speak about on the pod, different people in different stages of their lives. Just setting intentions is such a big part of that, and making affirmations and knowing that, your energy is towards that thing. So yeah, but with all of those things being said, this doesn't take away from the fact that we are all human beings. We all experience things, as I've said probably like 3 damn times already. I've been experiencing, hardships as well in this time where, we're full of, a lot of people are full of ideas and full of vision and full of, channeling energy that towards what they want to do in life. There are moments within that, on that journey, where you just feel blah, where you just feel like you don't understand what's happening. You're trying to do all these positive things and you don't see anything happening for you. You don't really understand why. You don't really, can't put your finger on it. You don't really know what it is, but it's something going on that's not really it's not in aligning right now. Like, something's going on where things aren't happening for you in the way that you thought. And sometimes it's deeper, where you have to really evaluate your environment, your surroundings, yourself, your intentions, your mindset, all of that. And sometimes it's like hindrances that it's just like a part of the journey. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a part of life, and it's a part of your story, and it's a part of you understanding how these things work, so to speak, whether that be, let's say, buying a car for the first time, and you didn't know you would have to go through insurance and have credit and all these other things. And you're like, oh, damn, like I thought I was here and now I'm here. And it's like, yes, that might seem like a hindrance or a blockage, but in reality, it's a learning, it's learning that this is how this process is done. And that brings me to like the next point I was going to talk about. Like when we do have those moments of like hindrances or blockages or just things that we feel like are prohibiting us to achieving our goals or to fulfilling our purpose, it's like the first thing to do is identify what those things are. I think that's something that has helped me, or is something that I'm also trying to implement on a daily, like not on a daily basis, but like, just taking time to like once in a while, just say like, okay, what is really, let me just like quantify what's really going on right now. Like what is really happening? Like, what am I really upset about? What is really the thing that I'm complaining about? Like what's really happening where I feel like I cannot progress in this area? Is it something that I'm just kind of, I don't want to say making up, but is it something that's a mental block? Is it something that's an actual physical, like I need to, figure out how to get this shit out of here? You know what I mean? Or is it something that is caused by someone else's ideas and visions and isn't really in my way, but I'm considering them to be in my way? You know what I mean? There's so many different ways things can be seen, can be called a hindrance or called a blockage to you. And once I feel like take time sometimes to realize what those things are, I find that for me, that has helped and that does help me. Because I'm not going to lie to you, this part, identifying what my hindrances actually are or like what they might seem to be, that's really hard to do. Like that is something that I have struggled with because it's just very easy to just blame people and just make things seem like they're bigger than what they actually are. Not saying that problems aren't there and that, blockages do not exist, but sometimes it's really in our minds. Like sometimes you might think like such and such said this to me and I can't believe this person said that to me and I'm really trying to do this. And it's like, babe, okay, yeah, that might actually be something that is happening, but it's just evaluating how you're looking at it, And that's what I've learned. I'm learning. I can't even say I've learned, child. I'm learning about, having hindrances and blockages and things that are like just something that seems to be something that's coming up against you. Like, how are you looking at these things, right? Like, what are they, first of all? And why are they considered hindrances? And can you repurpose these things to become like things that aid you for your goals? Like, for instance, I'm gonna just get a little quick story time. One of the reasons why I really wanted to get into like media and like, a more creative space is that when I was in London, I was working for an investment bank, and I will never forget this. And I said to myself, this is one of the intentions that I set to myself, right? So, okay, I'm working at the bank, I'm doing my little internship or whatever. And I remember like hating it. To put a long story short, like I can't get like, it was a beautiful bank. Trust me. A lot of the people I work with were great people. I learned some things there, but it was just not the environment for me. It was just not something that I literally dreaded going to work every day. I hated it. I just could not understand how I could end up in a situation where I just really thought I would be in love with something. Like if you would have asked me a year before, I'd be like, yeah, girls, I'm working at a bank, like, all of that. But like, as I was there, I was like, I hate this. Like, I don't like coming into work every day. It was a layered situation, obviously. Like some of the people I work for were like, a little weird. But one thing that stood out to me is I remember one of my bosses was asking me like, okay, what do you want to get out of this internship? What is it that you want to see yourself doing? Where do you see yourself, And I remember just being like, my mind just being like, she's like, yeah, just be honest with me. And that's another thing, child. Sometimes people tell you to be honest with them. They don't really want the truth, but that's another story. But at the time I felt like I had nothing to lose because it was an internship and I was there for the time that I would have been there for. And, then it was going to be over. So I was like, yeah, I ain't got nothing to really lose from this. And you never know where you can get your blessings from. Anyways, I remember thinking to myself, like, the longer I stayed there, the more I wanted to be in media. The more I saw myself, I would listen to podcasts every single day, like every single day. Before I started this podcast, I was listening to podcasts every day for like 2 years, I would say straight, just like listening to my favorite like people. And I was just like, this is a world, like this is something that I can do. Like this is what I want to do. Like this is what I think I can do this. Like I can actually be this. Like I love this. I love learning from people. I love being able to have ideas and just hear them. I don't know. It was just something about it for me, right? Anyways, I tell one of my bosses that, I want to work for I won't even name the corporation, but I said I wanted to work for that corporation. And she kind of looked at me as like, like, you think you can do that? And I swear to you, to this day, bro, like that is my fuel. Like, and that could have been seen that in that moment where she said that is one thing I would never really recommend. Also, as a side note, I don't think everyone deserves to know all of your vision. So even though I'm saying like all of these things about writing these things down or having mood boards and having vision boards, I don't think that every dream that you have or every idea that you have is fair game for everyone to know, because not everyone has the same intentions as you, and you definitely want to protect your ideas. But there's also, something to be said about learning from other people and kind of like collaborating and things like that. It's just about discernment and knowing when to do what. But in this instance, it was so interesting to me because that was like, when you have an idea and it's like the incubator period, like it's just like in its infancy, and it's like something that you're excited and you're like, and this woman just flat out was like, you think you could do that? With the shadiest of the shade, child. To this day, I'm going to prove her wrong. And I'm not even saying it as if it's happened, because I have a mindset when it comes to these things where I know I'm getting there. You know what I mean? Like, I know that. So the fact that you had the gall, the audacity to look me in my face as if, who am I to even think I can be that? Oh, nah, you got me effed up. You got me effed up, ma. Like, now I'm going to do it for real. Like, now I'm really going to do it just so I could. And then I'm going to add you on LinkedIn like, oh, yeah, hi, how are you? Insert person's name here because I ain't about to shout her out. But it was just like little things like that I think about when I think about repurposing hindrances or like blockages, and like trying to kind of changing your mindset to, letting those things kind of aid your success, aiding your incline, where you're going and stuff like that. Because sometimes it's just about the way we're looking at it. I could have took that moment and said, oh my gosh, this person who has these credentials has told me that looking at me like, how can I do this? And oh my gosh, like, what if da-da-da? No, babe, ain't got time for it. That I took that as, and it's still my fuel to this day. Like, no matter how upset, how like glum things get, or I think that they are, because I think again, our perception is so important. They may not be glum, it just might seem like that. You know how they say like you go through a really dark page. I don't even know the saying, but child, it's like when you go through a really dark place and then the next day pretty much you get whatever's due you. And it's like, yeah, that glum stage might look glum to you, but everybody else probably looking at you like, oh, she's out here killing and all this other stuff. And it's like, just knowing that like you have the power, or we have the power to like repurpose the energy that's given to us, like repurpose the ideas or the things that happen in our lives a lot of times to the best of our ability, and to make it work for us instead of working against us. Okay, guys, so before I get into this episode, I got to tell you guys about this amazing app that I found for podcasters. If you are interested in podcasting, never had a podcast before, know nothing about podcasting, I'm telling you, you want to download this app. It's called the Anchor app. Now, the Anchor app has literally everything you could ever need to build your podcast for absolutely $0. I am not joking. It's literally what I use to record my podcast every week. If you are at all interested in getting into the game, you want resources, you want to be able to record with friends, you want to be able to have all the things that you need basically as a starter kit, you want to download this app. Just go to anchor.fm and get started. Guys, you're going to thank me later, I'm telling you. That's just a power of the brain, a power of the mind. I wanted to kind of like highlight some things because y'all know I love to give a little bit of context, right? And I'm so mad because my laptop just died and I had like all of the little links there, but I'm pretty sure I can remember them off the top of my head because I really does this. No, I'm just kidding. But one of the things that I feel like really, really helped my mind to kind of jumpstart and allowed me to push myself, propel myself forward in the way that, in the things that I actually wanted to do versus just kind of being like passive about them, was the 5-second rule. Let me tell you, that book, I'm sorry, y'all, this week, it ain't like these authors and stuff are not Black, but there's still really good books. There's still great resources to invest in because they're just great. I don't know what to say, child. They're just great. They helped me at least. And it just broadened my understanding to certain things. And I was able to see things in a different way. So there's the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins. And that book, I mean, not gonna lie to you, that book helped me get to London. That book really, really, really changed my life. Like I read that book probably like, I would say like almost 2 years ago. Yeah, it had to be 2 years ago now because I was in London a year ago. So yeah, like that book, it talks about, I don't want to give too much of the book away, but it just gives you a different perspective of like how to view the ideas that come into your head. We spoke about visions. We spoke about mood boards and like having ideas and writing them down, how to make those things come to life. Like I'm giving you guys a little bit of just a way of looking at things that is kind of like tailored to the way that I think and how I kind of try to navigate through spaces in my life where I need to be motivated, or spaces in my life where I feel like I need to do things, be action, have action items and actually fulfill those things, or through spaces in my life where I'm not just as interested, you know what I mean? And how to get myself there. But I feel like these tools will help you guys really like fully plan it out, fully like push yourself into doing those things. And the 5-second rule was one of the first books that I remember reading and being like, well, I listen to audiobooks. So child, listened to that had me really like, nah, I'm about to do this. Nah, I'm really about to do this. Like, I'm not playing. Like, no, I have to do everything that I purpose in my heart to do because there's a reason why I want to do it. So I would highly suggest the 5-second rule. I will have all this information in the description of this pod, by the way. Another thing that I found that was like a really great resource is like this book called The Originals. I'm sorry, I paused because I'm thinking. This book called The Originals by Adam Grant. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it, but please look it up. It's called The Originals by Adam Grant. He's a organizational psychologist, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a psych buff, so I love psychology. I love learning about, I love experimental psychology in particular too, and like just learning about how you've done certain things and how it triggers the mind, and just it's amazing to me. So what I really love about The Originals is it speaks about creativity, and it speaks about being a kind of like a self-starter, a leader, etc. All of those things, and kind of like, I feel like it helps you to have a mindset of someone who's going to be actionable about things versus being passive and just kind of like letting life kind of lead you in a way. It obviously has a lot to do with purpose and vision, and just kind of like alternative ways that we might not think of as good ways to start things, or like, this is the formula, so to speak. He kind of goes a different route and showing you various ways that you can achieve and accomplish your goals. Like, you don't always have to be the first person to do it, or you don't always have to be the person that once you see it, you do it right away. And in contrast to what the book that I just told you guys about before, the 5-second rule, it's like everyone has a different way of doing things, and no one way is necessarily wrong. And really, what I really like about The Originals is that it shows you how to be an original, but like how your qualities already that you have within you can make you an original, So I think it's a really beautiful book. Also, he gives a lot of like psych resources, and like he talks about a lot of studies. If you're into that type of stuff, you're going to have a party, you're going to have a ball. I recently finished that book today. And like it's just really good. Also just taking time to have like mental health checks and just kind of like, just remembering that, we are human and we do have emotions, and it's okay to have those emotions and be feelings like, being overwhelmed and all those things are really normal, allowing yourself to kind of face those things and understand those things in this process. I feel like that's been helpful to me, because like, not gonna lie, this week I've taken like a couple of those days where I'm like, child, I just need some time. Like, I just need some time. Like, I'm reaching out to different kinds of people to try to get, myself connected, or like just learn more about things. And sometimes even that can get super exhausting. And just understanding when it's like, okay, I need a moment to just breathe for a minute, I think it's just been, I think that's been really great in the process of like getting to the next level. Because in those reset moments, or sometimes I had a friend that's always tells me, like, in those reset moments where you're kind of like taking a breather, sometimes is where you get the blessing. Sometimes it's like you're running around so much that you don't even realize that something was right in your face, but you take a moment to kind of reset, and you're like, oh damn, like I could have that's right there. Like, I don't even know why I didn't think about that. Like, that's right there in my face, Another thing I found out about recently is I was on TikTok the other day, because child, that's another thing that I use to just gotta get my mind off of stuff. But yeah, I was on TikTok the other day, and I saw that there was this like hack, I guess it's called, where it was called the 10-10-10. And there's another 10-10-10 rule where it's pretty much about decision making, which I'll also mention after this, because I think that would be helpful for some people as well. But this 10-10-10 off TikTok, child, I'm gonna call it the TikTok 10-10-10, is pretty much about like you make 10 lists, pretty much like 1 to 10, pretty much just 30 altogether, but you'll do 10, a section of 10 bullet points, another section of 10 bullet points, and another section of 10 bullet points. And you'll write 10 things that, you have as goals for your life, like 10 goals that you have. And this is kind of to center yourself, and to kind of like, I guess, do like a little bit of a reset, kind of like what I was just speaking about. You'll write 10 things that you are, have as goals, 10 things that you love, and 10 things that you're grateful for. And I guess it kind of gives you that sense of, I haven't really done it yet, but it's something that I kind of was like, yeah, I want to do that. Especially if you deal with things like anxiety, like I do from time to time, and you just need a moment to kind of like say, yeah, but like, I got some stuff going for me, kind of centering your mind and understanding, like grounding yourself, so to speak. I think that's something that I would be a really great tool. I don't know what it's called, child. I don't even know the creator. I wish I could say the creator's name to give them credit, but I do not remember the creator. It was just, when you just scroll on the For You page and you're just like, oh, look at that, It was one of those moments, but I did want to include that because I thought it was really cool. And it was a nice spin on the 10-10-10 rule that I'm about to tell you about. So this other 10-10-10 rule is about decision making, and it's by Welch, Suzy Welch. She's an author and a television host. She's done a lot of stuff in media and stuff like that. And she has a 10-10-10 rule that she came up with that is pretty much 10 things that you want to do in the next 10 minutes. I think it's 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just make sure, because I do not want to give y'all the wrong information at all. Yes. Okay, cool. Right. So the 10-10-10 rule by Suzy Welch is a book, and you can purchase it. But the premise of it is, kind of gearing yourself up to do things within the next 10 minutes, the next 10 months, and the next 10 years. And I think that's really interesting as well. That's also something that I'm going to put into practice, a little bit more often, and just kind of like seeing the results of that, because I feel like just doing these little knacks and tricks can really help your mind to kind of like frame things. If you are like me and you're like a list maker and you like to see things visually and you like to kind of like experience things in that way. What's interesting about me is that like I can do both. Like I can do a vision board and also like, with pictures and things like that, but also do lists. And I find that both kind of work for me, depending on depending on what we're talking about, child. So if that is, something that you find, that works for you as well, definitely try those things. I also want to say that like, it's okay to not be okay. I know a lot of times, with everything I'm saying, at least, it can seem like the idea is for us to have it all together. And, with vision and with purpose, we want to kind of be motivated to be perfect and all of those things. But the reality of the situation is that we're not. And we're not meant to be, like no one's meant to be perfect. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and we were just talking about like, how we're just crying and pushing ourselves at the same time and just kind of like going for our goals regardless of how hard it is. And I feel like that's real. Like, I feel like that's real. We kind of made that, her and I made that our mantra, not because we're advocating crying and, struggling through whatever we're going through, but just kind of understanding that that is a part of it sometimes, and not to beat ourselves up about that. So I don't know. I just wanted to leave you guys with this today. I have been in this space. I didn't want to come on here and be fake and talk about something that I wasn't really experiencing. Yes, I could have spoken about the elections and how crazy that shit is, but we will get to that because, all of the votes aren't even in yet. So I definitely wanted to kind of leave you guys with something that, was resonating with me, that I'm actually, kind of going through. And I'm hopeful that you guys would benefit from this, this pod, and also can give me some tips, tell me what y'all going through. Tell me what's up with y'all and how y'all are kind of like managing this time and pursuing your dreams regardless, and how you've been able to be successful or maybe not successful in some cases. I feel like we just all learn from each other, and we just got to be real with each other and like, just be like, yeah, this is what's going on, child, so this is my little outlet. So that's what I do, whatever. And I hope you guys enjoy this pod, and I'll catch you again 2 weeks. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of the All Black Matters podcast. You guys know, like, I be chatting sometimes and y'all be listening and stuff, and I appreciate that. So definitely connect with me on socials, All Black Matters podcast on Instagram. You can also email the All Black Matters podcast, I think I said that a little funny before, at gmail.com. And, reach out to your girl. Let me know how y'all feel about it. If you guys want to be featured, if you guys want to just chat, let me know. I'm here for you. You here for me. We here for each other. Okay. And if anything has been helpful to you, also let me know that. That'd be super, super helpful to know. And if y'all voted, let me know that too. Okay. Because I need to know. Anyways, have a good one, guys. Bye.